How you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Am I alone in having these weird moments where I occasionally remember the people on ESPN2 that used to do all the trick shots on pool tables and all that wacky stuff they used to do? Okay, I'm not the only one. Maybe I am. I don't know. But yeah, today's game is probably one of the closest moments you can get to that. Not because you can do a whole bunch of wacky trick shots on this game, but because all the tables are weird. Yeah, the tables vary in shape, and it can get kind of ridiculous. This is also one of the first titles published by FCI on the NES, and one of the first games developed by Compile on the NES. Surprise, surprise, it's not a shmup. But Compile went on to develop one of the better shmups on the NES, and honestly one of the better shmups of all time if we're keeping it 100. Again, this game is from 1987, was published by FCI / Pony Canyon. Love that name. And there's some interesting little bits of information involving this game and others of its ilk, and I'll explain in a sec. Today, we're going to take a quick look at Lunar Pool. Now, with Lunar Pool, it's a standard billiards game, right? I think this and Side Pocket are really the only two that got published on the NES. This one deviates from Side Pocket because while Side Pocket was trying to just be a traditional game of pool, this takes the standard play of billiards in a virtual setting and puts it in a bunch of wacky tables. And what you're left with is a pretty interesting game with some really well done physics for an NES game. You get a bonus for dropping balls in sequential order, stuff like that. And I mean, that's like a standard thing in pool. And this game, because of the way some of the tables are set up, that might be a hard thing to do. So just, making sure that you don't scratch is probably your goal. That's probably your big end goal with this one. So, yeah. As far as music and graphics and all that, graphics aren't really going to be all that remarkable with a game like this. Like, you can't expect a whole lot out of a pool game. There's no real place to put a whole bunch of graphical sizzle, What you do get, though, is a bit of a soundtrack. I'm surprised. You get like a couple full-on songs and not just a little jingle at the end of a turn or whatever. Also, because this is one of the earlier NES releases, one of the earlier third parties at that, there is a situation where occasionally you might run across a game that instead of it having just the standard 3 screws holding it in place, it might be held together with 5 screws, and the cartridge might be a little heavier than it typically would be. This can affect the price of the game when you go to buy it at resale, and I'll explain that in a sec. Because if you decide you want to get yourself a copy of Lunar Pool. On average, a regular cart, a regular 3-screw cart, or somebody who isn't trying to just hold you on some nostalgia stuff, you'll probably get this about $7. That's the standard price that I'm seeing it going for. Now, those 5-screw carts, there is a chance that there might be a converter inside the cart. Back in the day, what a lot of these folks did, instead of them having to complete, because they didn't have to do a whole lot as far as changing a lot of text or converting a whole lot of stuff in a game, they would just take a Famicom board, slap a converter on the end of it, put it in the cartridge shell, and that's how that works. So if you get a 5-screw cart and it's a bit on the heavy side, open it up, because they take standard screws, and if it has like the converter on the end, not only do you have that game with a converter, but now you have a converter so you can play Famicom games. It's actually the gift that keeps on giving, and that's why those cartridges cost about double the price of a standard cart. So yeah, instead of you paying about $7, you'll likely pay about close to $20. I don't see the point of that, but it ain't my business. But this is a good game, and if you want to play pool and don't want to get a pool table, this might be a good chance for you to jump in there, you know? But this has been the 8-Bit Animal, and I'll catch you beautiful people tomorrow. Tomorrow. Sure, Super Meat Boy was a piece of cake. But have you conquered the Fortress of Peril yet?